Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Emo Tempest and we are doing Emissary of Light card of the week, Byblos. This card is very interesting. We have Tim here to talk about it. I guess he's a Minotaur, and I didn't really touch on from the hint last week that it was, something in the library, but that's okay. It's a spoiler and we're excited about it anyway. Let's read the card and then I'll talk to you about some of and highlight some of the things Tim went over here. So 2-drop forward, category 5, evil spirit job, monster, and potentially 7k, and a hero. When your opponent discards one or more cards from their hand due to your summons or abilities, you choose a forward your opponent controls, dull it, and freeze it. For 0 at 3 damage, you can turn him into a forward for 7k power, and when Byblos attacks, your opponent discards a card from their hand. You can only use this ability once per turn. Yeah, pretty solid, right? So here he just talks about how he's like Gigas. For 0 CP, he can become a forward. He's going to make has a lot of positive implications for deck building in Opus 16. Very similar to Byblos, when he's a presence to be dealt with, right? Because Byblos is whenever your opponent discards from one of your summoner abilities, choose a character, you dull it and freeze it, right? So together they're dulling and freezing two things, which is very nice. Well, forward and potentially a backup from Byblos. He talks about how find most of a home in Ice and Wind, but could also be in Ice Lightning. And then he talks about a few other cards, like Flan and Argath that just trigger discards and, forcing a free dull and freeze, a forward or whatever. And then Go-Go, which this ability I found very interesting. When he activates Byblos, Go-Go will copy, so then both of them will be able to discard when they attack. I like that. That's actually a very good one. And then, Centered talks more about the Ice Storm deck with Locke, and then Titania and Asura. Locke is obviously a really strong card. It gets a lot of effects, and then when it discards this guy, Byblos will trigger. Titania requires having monsters in the break zone, so this is another way outside of Ochu, or another one you could fit into your deck to kind of help support her. And then Asura, get a character cost of 2 or less as well. So some interesting cards. And then this one's no brainer too. The Sid Wolf lets you bring a 2-drop monster back into play from your break zone. So a couple of good ideas there that, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't have thought of the Go-Go one. The rest of them, yeah, we would have got there. But very strong card. Here's some of the things I had in mind. Some of the things we might see more often with it. Zidane, obviously, if it is in Storm, very common situation here to run into this guy. Just Quattro Queen and Gao 2 to bring back a 2-drop monster and bring it into play. Quattro Queen, I'm pretty sure actually doesn't bring it into play because it's not considered a monster until you activate its effect. It's not worded the same way as some of the other ones. Realm as well, another very good target to bring in, early on into the game. Now Orphan, I'm surprised this one wasn't highlighted as well, but this one, between both of them, you're getting 4 dulls, I believe. So when your opponent discards one or more cards from their hand, due to your summons ability, choose a forward, dull it, right? And then at the beginning of the attack phase, your turn, your opponent discards, right? So if you have Orphan and Byblos out, right? Enter battle phase, discard. They'll both trigger dull, and freeze, right? Then he activates, assuming you're at 3 damage, of course. He'll attack. Your opponent discards. Then they'll both trigger again, dull, and then dull and freeze. So 4 forwards removed with 2 cards seems like a solid, strategy. It almost obviously makes the snow a little obsolete. The 4-drop backup that we talk about. So there's some saving space there, right? You can play 2 Byblos and multiple Orphans in your deck as opposed to having 4-drop backups in the deck. So Chivalry is another one I thought was paired nicely, being as it can become a forward as well. When it attacks, don't freeze someone, bait the block, punch up, kill something, and then make them discard, dull and freeze something else for the rest of your forwards. Or in any other situation, right? As long as Byblos is out, if you manage to pull the Chivalry off, it's going to set you up for a good turn. Scale to it is a natural pairing as well. At the end of your opponent's turns, right? So either if they attack or they just deploy something, and they have to discard, then you're able to dull and freeze it, let you stay open for your next turn, right? Very control-y, Scale Toad and Byblos was always a crazy thing, and then now Scale Toad and Byblos is also a very good thing. I put one searcher here, but you already knew this too. And where we haven't seen a lot of play, but this might replace that snow we were just talking about as well, right? Just because you have the space now. At the end of your turns, if your opponent discarded a card from their hand due to your summon's abilities, you draw a card. And I think we talked about this when we saw Orphan last set, or when I did the reviews. This is the natural progression that I should have been taking over the last few sets, but it's better late than never, I suppose, right? I think we, at least here in South Florida anyway, we kind of came to the consensus that ice is very weak right now. It's probably the weakest elements, and I think there's that mindset in the community as well. But cards like Byblos, Orphan, and Were, and just they're gonna keep increasing that value that ice used to have, right? Which kind of both disrupts your opponent, pushes you ahead, and then with all these extra effects like extra dulls and freezes and drawing cards now with Were, you just, that gap gets a little wider, right? It makes it tougher for your opponent to recover. And so, this was just a few of the ideas. As far as the pros and cons list went, guys, that one was a little tough for me, I'm not going to lie. This card is very strong, so I'm going to go on a reach here. So let me pull that up for you now. So, pros, obviously searchable in many ways. 2-drop, ice, monster, category 5. You're going to get this card one way or another. I don't really see a problem with it. Low cost, high impact, right? You could drop him turn 1 or turn 2. He's a good curve for you to have out there. And then eventually he'll be, even if you're behind, once he sits in there, he'll be usable right away. Obviously he won't be able to attack the first turn, but his effects, you can activate him if you need to for blocking at the worst case scenario. Low cost, high impact. It's kind of just that, right? He can come out anytime and then start doing damage if you have Orphan out or whatever, or if vice versa, right? Let's say you have your setup already and he's not out. Playing him is cheap enough for you to do it on a mid range turn, and you're ready to push up, and your opponent doesn't expect it, right? Because you have to keep as much resources available as always. For 2 CP, you're deploying him, and he's able to trigger all these things, right? Pairs well with many cards. We kind of just talked about that, right? You can go into, he has 3 decks already, 3 homes, Mono Ice, Ice Wind, and Ice Lightning. And the last thing I think I put here for him, he can trigger himself, right? Whereas Barrelite, you need other cards to influence his effects. He can do it himself. Cons was a reach, right? Only forwards, but again, that's kind of balanced by him being able to trigger his own effect. And the only con I could think of is that he's ice, right? We're not sure where ice is and where ice will go. Even though ice, wind, storm decks are very strong, I hope he'll find a space there, right? But that's all I could come up with. As far as the teaser now, Rochelle's coming with a card that is incredibly fun to play with gorgeous artwork. I just popped this up for just in case. We haven't seen, this is the Emissaries Light page, kind of like they talked about a reveal. Let us know some of the sample cards. We saw the Cecil. We haven't seen what I think is another Mobius card here, but this is original art, and so is the Lunith. So I'm thinking maybe one of those will be full arts. This is all this FFCC guy. I can never remember his name, and the Shinra guy as well. I don't think this is coming full art either, but it might be gorgeous art, right? So just some of the things we're waiting for here. But yeah, guys, that'll do it. Byblos is a very strong card. Let me know what you guys think about him and where he goes, what deck you're going to put him in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.